So I recently discovered after about 17 years of marriage, gold tends to shrink. At least that's what I'm telling myself. So I have a few options here. I can either just live with it, paste it to my finger. I could buy a new ring. I could lose weight, which might be the sensible thing to do. Or I could just make a new ring. So in this video, we're going to attempt to make a new ring. And this is actually really easy to do. You could purchase a core online from a woodworking supplier and build your ring around that core, like we do in this video. Now this can be accomplished with simple hand tools, like a handsaw, drill, and whatnot. But since I do have the proper tools, we're going to use a lathe and some attachments. And I wanted to make this ring a little bit special. This past November, my wife and I went to Hawaii for the first time. And it was an awesome vacation. While there, I had to visit some of the local woodworking suppliers. And I purchased some of the East India Rosewood, as you see here, monkey pod, koa, a variety of different species. Now for the ring, I'm going to use this East India Rosewood because I like the grain pattern. Online, you can also pick up these pre-cut blanks. We are going to cut our rosewood into the approximate size of this blank. Using a piece of melamine as a flat base, I'll take some spray adhesive and attach a piece of 80 grit sandpaper to that base. I want to make sure that one side of this blank is as flat as I can get it. I'll go back and forth, I'll use a circle pattern, and then I'll end it with a figure 8 pattern. Once I remove all the dust particles, I will mark it for center. Now you can either use hot glue or double-sided tape, like we're using here, to attach your blank to the waste piece. And now it's time to center the blank in the lathe on the waste piece. We're using a center to get it as close as possible. It does not have to be exact, but this will make turning it much easier. Once we've got it nice and centered, we can start turning our blank. Once I have the blank nice and round, I'm going to install the drill chuck along with a Forstner bit. I'm using a Forstner bit just below the size of the core that I'm going to be using for the ring. Now this will help speed up the process and hog out a lot of the material that I won't have to use with the scraper. You can see it does not fit. We're going to move our rest and start removing the remainder of the material until that core fits perfectly. So we want to just remove a small amount of material each time we take a pass and then check for fit. If we remove too much material, we'll need to start over or buy a larger core. Now I can remove the core from the waste block. Now we go back to the sanding board. We need to sand this blank to exactly 6 millimeters. No less, no more. Our wooden blank has to fit between the two metal core pieces. Once we have it at 6 millimeters, we can do a dry fit. Once I'm satisfied with the dry fit, we can epoxy the pieces together. I'm using some 5-minute epoxy, which I will apply to the inside of the blank. Before I forget, if you have any questions about the tools that I use in this video, I will have links located below the video in the description. Also, at the end of this video, I'll show you each of the individual tools that we use throughout the video. Once I have the epoxy in place, I will snap the two halves together. Follow that up with a few light taps from a plastic mallet. Now here's a closer look at the blank, which is now sandwiched between the two cores. I will now install the dowel chuck, or collet, onto the lathe. Once the collet is installed, I can install the ring mandrel. Once we have the ring mandrel installed, I'll tighten it up and insert our ring. Once the ring's inserted, we'll tighten up the collet to secure the ring in place. I will now turn the ring blank down to the proper size, which is flush with the two core pieces. Once the blank is flush with the core pieces, we'll start sanding. We start with 150 grit and make our way up to 600 grit. Once we're finished sanding, we can go ahead and polish. I use a scratch-free polish along with a ultra shine. You can also use CA glue or just about any other polish you can think of. I'd also like to polish the inside of the ring, leaving a smooth finish. We're using some plastic scratch-free polish and a Dremel wheel. Once I wipe off the excess polish, we'll try it on for size. I'm actually very pleased with the outcome, and I like the fact that this has somewhat of a story to it. We had a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Hawaii, and I've used some material from that trip. And I'm really not a big fan of gold, so I was due for a change anyway. And I guess the whole moral of the story is, if you get fat, make a new ring. And now for some of the tools. We have a cheap ring sizing kit, which my ring shrunk from a 10 to an 8, so I had to make a 10. The carbide lathe tools that we used for this project. Again, there will be links in the description located below the video. The Nova G3 chuck, which I believe has been replaced with a newer model. A waste blank made out of pine or whatever. A drill chuck. Forstner bit, sizes will vary. A live center. A ring mandrel. 5-minute epoxy, double-sided tape, sandpaper, scratch-free polish, as well as some shining polish. And for this project, we used the chuck collet system. This is not a necessity, but it is a very nice addition. And lastly, our lathe. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and maybe even learned something. As always, thanks for watching.